We are beginning a new text, the most wonderful, very popular text. More popular, especially in some parts of India, than even Bhagavad Gita, our first session. And that is Vishnu Sahasranama. Sahasranama means 1,000 names. So there are 1,000 names for many gods. There is Shiva Sahasranama, Rama Sahasranama, Lalita Sahasranama. But as much as this is popular, if I want to use that word, no other 1,000 names are as much known or recited by people. And so, this is the text that we have decided that we are going to study. In Bhajagovindam, Acharya, Shankaracharya ji, books are there. Those who want, they can buy all of them. If you want, you can raise your hands and they'll give the books. Acharya Shankaracharya ji, in Bhajagovindam, he says, Geyam Gita Nama Sahasram Dheyam Shri Pati Rupamajasram. Geyam. Geyam means sing. Gita, Bhagavad Gita. Sing Bhagavad Gita and sing Sahasranam. Anyone you can do. This is very popular. And Dhyayam, do Dhyana. Shripati Rupam, the form of consort of Lakshmi ji, or the beloved of Lakshmi ji. And that is our Bhagavan. Instantly. So, sing Bhagwan's glory, Bhagwan's name, and meditate on Bhagwan's form. This was the instruction. Of course, other two instructions are also there. He says, Neyam Sajjana Sange Chittam. Your Chittam, your mind, lead that to Satsang. Sajjana Sange. And Deyam Dina Janayacha Vittam. You do some charity, give Vittam, wealth to Dina Jana means those who want, those who need. And if you can give, share it with people. So sing Bhagwan's name in Bhagavad Gita or in Sahasranama. Think about Bhagwan, Dhyanam, meditate on that form. Do satsang. So 3 instructions we are following right here in one class. And that Deyam Dina Janayacha Vittam, that is up to individuals. So it is the instruction of Acharya that we should study. Another way we can look at this. If somebody says, no, I don't think I should study this, Vishnu Sahasranama. Tell me, what is the goal of life? what is it that we really want to accomplish here? If this question comes to us, we shall realize no matter what we do here, no matter what we accomplish here, when the time comes to go from here, none of these things we take with us. The only two things that go with us, they are our meritorious deeds, our karma. Meritorious means other karmas also come, but what matters most is good karmas and our knowledge, our understanding, our wisdom. Says Kathopanishad, योनि मन्ये प्रपद्यन्ते शरीरत्वाय देहिनः स्थाणु मन्येनु संयन्ति यथा कर्म यथा श्रुतम. We can get different kinds of births in this world, including sthanu. Sthanu means a tree. That also we may get depending on what we have done in our this life and earlier lives. So except for these two, karma and jnana, everything else we have to live here anyway. And the best way to achieve both is by listening to Bhagwan's glories, developing love, devotion for the Lord. This is the easiest path. There is no doubt about it. And therefore, we should study this. Another question. Somebody may say, why should I study? I've been chanting, because there are a lot of people here also who do chanting. Probably you are doing from childhood. I didn't do chanting from childhood, so I am not as good in Vishnu Sahasranama, chanting, etc. But those who are doing chanting from childhood, they say chanting is good enough. Why I have to study, attend these classes and all that? I do that 20 minutes, 22 minutes chanting, fatafat, over. Why there is need to study? So I will tell you why we are going to study, not just chant. Chanting is very good and we should continue. We will chant the shloka and study, but there is very good reason why we should study. And we will study this from the commentary written by great Acharya. You all must have heard the name of Adi Shankaracharya. Adi Shankaracharya ji, when he was very young, he wanted to take sannyasa. And he asked his mother. So mother said, no, you are the only support for me. I will not let you go. And the famous story is that one day when his mother was near the river and Shankaracharya ji, He went into the river to take bath, etc. And at that time, a crocodile came, gator. And this gator captured his feet. And Shankaracharya felt that this is the end of life. So he asked his mother, who was right there, "Mother, you didn't allow me to take sannyasa. At least give me that permission now, so that I may feel that I died as a sannyasi." That is also great merit in our Shastras. So mother was reluctant, but then she said, "This is the last instance, so let me give permission." So she said yes. And Bhagavan Shankaracharya took water from that Purna river. It's near Kaladi. And he did Sannyastam Maya, Sannyastam Maya, Sannyastam Maya. I renounce. 3 worlds I renounce. That's why he did thrice. And as soon as he finished that, the gator also understood Sanskrit, Sannyastam. He also renounced. He gave up Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji. And he went. So Shankaracharya ji came out and he said, "Mother, now I am going because you gave the permission." So mother was not very happy, but she finally allowed him to go. And Shankaracharya ji went to the famous teacher Govind Bhagavad Padacharya, or Govind Padacharya sometimes he is called. He was sitting in a cave. That is how it is portrayed. Near the bank of Narmada. And in deep meditation. When Shankaracharya ji approached him, he sang great hymns, and then the teacher came out from his meditation, from his samadhi. And he said, "I was waiting for you only. Such a great disciple you are." Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji studied scriptures in no time. By the age of 8 or 9, all study of ordinary scriptures and everything done. By 12, he finished all the Vedas. Then he said, "Now I want to write commentaries on Prasthanatraya." The 3 texts, most famous texts, they are called Vedanta or Prasthanatraya, texts which take us to our ultimate destination, Prasthanam. And they are Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads, and Brahma Sutra. So he told his teacher, "See, we have to learn so many things from Acharya's conduct." He went to his teacher and asked for permission to write commentary. Not that I will start writing, whether you want or not, nothing like that. He asked for permission. His teacher, he didn't say yes. He said, "First you have to prove yourself." And how to prove? He said, "First you write commentary on Vishnu Sahasranama and show it to me." So Acharya said, "Okay." And he wrote, his first bhashya is on this text. And when teacher saw that, after Shankaracharya ji was done, he showed it. Teacher looked at it and he said, from now onwards, you don't need to ask any permissions. You can write whatever commentary you want. That beautiful commentary he wrote. And that is how we got this explanation of Vishnu Sahasranama. And therefore, we are going to study this, not only chant. There is another version also of this story. And that is, Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji, he belonged, or his family belonged to Taittiriya Shakha of Yajurveda. Which means, in his family, they were studying this branch called Taittiriya Shakha of Yajurveda. Everyone was studying. And after he studied all the Vedas, he wanted to write first commentary on that Upanishad, because that is what they had been studying. And in those days, there were no books or computers to type things. So he was writing with those pens on the leaves. And he would write that, and next day morning, the material would disappear. The pages, the leaves would be blank. Again he would write, again blank. It happened for a few days. Then he was wondering what's going on. Then it is said he had the inspiration from within, or if you want to call that God came and instructed him, first you write commentary on Vishnu Sahasranama. Get his grace and then you write all the other things. And so Bhagavan first wrote this. Either way, this is the first creation of Adi Shankaracharya as far as Bhashya is concerned. And therefore, we will study. See, if he has written Bhashya, there is a purpose. It is not just so that he could write more commentaries. This is invoking his grace, God's grace. Therefore, we should study. Okay. What is so good about these 1,000 names of the Lord? Two questions are there in this question. One question is, what is so good about Lord's name? Second question is, why 1,000 names? So, two questions. What are the questions? What is so good about God's name? And why 1,000 names? Okay. In this life, all the names that we have, watch, book, table, mic, or others' names also, people's names. What do they indicate? Name indicates the object. Naam is associated with some rupa, some form, some qualities, guna. All the objects that we see in this world, what is it that is common in all objects? everything. Or we may say, oh, we don't know. If there is anything common, simple. This object you see, object means stand, let us say, mic stand, mic, base here. These names that we refer to, base or stand or mic, these indicate three different things. But there is one thing common in all, and that is steel. And so I can call this as steel, steel, steel. And that correctly indicates that object in its true nature. Therefore, that which is, I will use little technical terminology now, that which is the cause of this, without which this object ceases to exist. That is its true name, true identity. That without which the object ceases to exist, that is its true identity, true essence. So from this, if I remove steel, then this will cease to exist. So the essence of this is steel. The essence of this is steel. What is the essence of this entire universe, of all names and all forms? That is Vishnu. You will say, you just said it and you want us to believe also. No, we will see what is Vishnu. But it is the very cause of this creation. Cause of creation is that which is beyond creation. Because cause of creation cannot be anything which is part of creation. And everything that we know, other than God, or if you want to call truth or reality, you can use other words also. Everything other than that is part of creation. And so, cause is that which is beyond creation. And that cause pervades the effect. Cause will pervade the effect. Like steel pervades this. This sounds good. In that way, that Paramatma pervades everything. And so, all names belong to him only. Even when I say this watch or this book, ultimately it refers to that Paramatma. Not knowing that, and if I think this is only a book, it is like not knowing that this is steel, and I refer to this only as a base. Then my understanding will be that it is only a base, not a steel. our masters, they want us to know that underlying everything, there is one truth alone. And that is indicated by Lord, and that alone is to be achieved, to be understood, to be loved, to be experienced. Whether we do it in one life or over many lives. And somebody may say, oh, let me think this. I have not started this early enough. And if I give up my body sometime, what will be my destiny? Otherwise also this is very common question. What will happen to me after I die? In satsangs, in question answer, there are certain standard questions that everyone wants to know. There is some room here, you can come this side, or here also you can come. So this is one of the standard questions. What will happen to me when I die? Bhagavan gives this answer in Bhagavad Gita. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajatyante kalevaram tam tamevaiti kaunteya sada tadbhava bhavitah. This shloka is very easy for me to remember because when we were studying in our ashram, we had one brahmachari from Nigeria. He was African boy, and this shloka begins with yam yam, yam yam vapi, and that yam yam word he remembered. Every time, yam yam, oh okay. So we all knew this shloka. And there is another shloka also, yo yo yam yam. That one also easy to remember. Yo yo, okay. This shloka means yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajati ante kalevaram. Ante, at the end, when an individual is about to give up his body or her body, with whatever bhava, whatever thought, they give up the body. That and that alone is their destination. Tam tam eva eti kaunteya. O Arjuna, that and that alone is his or her destiny. Why? Sada tad bhava bhavitah. All the time that person has been thinking about that thing alone. Don't expect any miracle that throughout my life I will think of worldly things and at the end I will remember Bhagavan. Bhagavan also knows it doesn't work. So he gave the answer very well. And he says, Antakalecha mam eva smaran muktva kalevaram. At the time of departure, if somebody remembers me, yap prayati tyajandeham sayati paramamgati. An individual giving up that body, he comes to me. Yati na asti atra samshaya. There is no doubt here. So, if we remember God in our life, during our life, then at the end we will be able to remember Him. And the easiest way is this. Why 1000 names? Because truly speaking, one name is enough. And truly speaking, all names are also not enough. Both way it is true. One name is enough if we are ready. And we know, and our mind can stay on that one name. And all names are also not enough, because that alone is in every form. So whichever name we address, it is the same thing. Like you may have kids, one child, mother will address that child differently, father differently, mother side fathers, grandfather, different names, father side different names, then in school some other name. Every child has Sahasranam. Before we proceed, I just heard some music. If you have cell phones or other pagers or other devices, please turn them off. And this year is the new rule. I didn't tell in the first class, and now I am telling. What we are going to do is this. I am going to raise 1, 2, 3. I am going to do these numbers. Everyone is going to shout at that person whose phone is ringing. And we are going to say, please switch off your cell phone, or please turn off your cell phone. Everyone. Then that person will realize that he has disturbed the whole class. I am going to be only an instrument. I will trigger that and be witness, and then you do everything else. This way we can understand how many people get affected by that little ring. So if you have the phones, turn them off right now, and from next time onwards, when you come, keep them off only. Because whatever thought that we go with, yam yam vapi smaran bhavam. So we should remember God. All names are also His name only. So every name should actually remind us of Him only. If it does, wonderful. If not, study should continue. And if it reminds, then without studying also, every name we will connect to God only. From effect, we will go to cause. In the language of Vedanta, from known to unknown. So that is the purpose of studying this. And this being the goal of life, this is what we shall attain. Why 1,000 names? Because one name is enough. But if our mind is not able to stay there, we need more pointers. And that's why the title of the book here, it is given as 1,000 Ways to the Transcendental. 1,000 ways to that absolute truth. 1,000 arrows, as though they are being pointed at. Okay, so this much about why we should study and what we are going to study, as in commentary of Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji on this Vishnu Sahasranama. What is Vishnu Sahasra Nama? We will see that now. Who is Vishnu? In this text, where there are names of the Lord, some names will have connections or references to Purana. Purana word you know, like Bhagavad Purana, Garuda Purana, Brahmavaivarta Purana, Brahmanda Purana, Padma Purana, etc. There are many Puranas, 18. So some names will have references or connections to Puranas, and so those names are called Pauranic names belonging to Puranas. The other names will be purely referring to certain aspects of Vedanta, and they are called Vedantic names. And some will have overlap, both. So Vishnu name has both connotations. In Puranas, Bhagavan Vishnu is referred as the deity with 4 arms, Chaturbhuja Paramatma. And his department is department of sustenance, right? Creation, sustenance and dissolution. So sustenance is Bhagavan's department. And there, who is this deity with 4 arms? Arms, hands, they refer to our power to achieve things in this world. With hands, we can accomplish things. And this is unique to human beings. Unlike animals, they don't have hands, they just have legs. So 4 arms, they represent the 4 things that human beings can accomplish. And we can accomplish only 4 things. Only 4. I do so many things, so many at a time. Teacher says everything can be grouped in 4 only. One is dharma. You know the other 3. Second is artha. Dharma means any righteous act, noble act done under the guidance of scriptures. Second is artha. Actions which are done for acquiring wealth. You call wealth, remember, even when we use the word wealth, what is underlying behind wealth, you know? Security. What we are seeking for is not wealth actually. We want security. And kama, when we say enjoyment, what we are looking for is pleasure you call, or some kind of fulfillment. So dharma, artha, kama, and 4th is moksha. These are the 4 purusharthas which every human being is engaged in. Bhagavan says, I will give you all 4. So he is the Lord of all Purushartha. And that is why whichever desire person has, he fulfills it. People go to temple and ask for, if somebody says, I want child, given. I want beautiful wife, husband. I want heaven. Do work. We have to do everything, but the desire will be fulfilled. And if somebody says, moksha, moksho mein bhuyat, if this kind of desire is there, that also is fulfilled. So Bhagavan Vishnu fulfills all these desires. And in his 4 arms, he has 4 things, different objects also. Shankha, conch, chakra, discus, gada, mace, and Padma, the lotus. And there also, there is some symbolism. Easiest way to understand this symbolism is when the parents have to wake up a teenager to go to school. First thing that you have to blow is shankha, in the form of modern alarms. If the mission is accomplished right there, then immediate peace, Padma. Lotus represents Shanti. That house will have lot of Shanti. Because no further dialogue is needed. Everyone is according to clockwork. Everything also works like that. Everyone knows time. Dinner, the shankha is blown by mother. Everyone arrives. Otherwise, chase them. Somebody is sitting in front of computer, somebody is listening to music. Remove everything, come. So first, conch is blown. If it doesn't work, Bhagavan uses gada. So mother also, when the child is sleeping, alarm. Then either mother will come there or she'll start shouting from kitchen. Are you already there in bathroom? Did you get in your shower? Or if husband is walking around, wake him up. That is gada. With remote control. And if that also doesn't work, then chakra is coming. Mother herself comes there, removes the comforter. Get up. In our life also, Bhagavan is blowing this conch. Wake up, wake up, wake up. But we love to sleep. We never learn. So sometimes gada is given. Some beating here, there. If that works, from that also peace comes. That lotus. Otherwise, Bhagavan says, you need chakra. And that chakra is also Sudarshana. Sudarshana means, Darshana means to see. Sudarshana, good seeing. That means it will result in good vision later. Even though we may feel that, oh, I am being punished, or like kids, they feel, Mom, you are so mean. They say this. But they don't know it is for their own good. And normally mom only gets these blames. Dad is very good. You may think that I am partial, but because dad, morning they go, evening they come back. All blame is on mom. Only later they realize. So for us also, if we go through some pain, we may think God is not compassionate. Oh, there is a lot of compassion there. I just read one quotation from Bhagavan Raman Maharshi Ji. He says, when everything is comfortable in life, to see God's grace is very easy. But when things are not working out well, and there to see God's grace is very difficult. So we should have that vision, that understanding that Bhagavan is leading us to that lotus. Lotus in our Shastra represents realization, nirvana. So, Bhagavan Vishnu, in this Puranic definition, is the giver of all fruits, and that is why we call Ishvara as Karma Phala Data, the giver of all results of actions. And also that ultimate liberation. That is from Puranic standpoint. From Vedantic standpoint, etymology of Vishnu. Vishnu means that which is Vyapaka. Vyapakatvat Vishnu. That which pervades is called Vishnu. So what pervades? We already saw in brief the analysis that cause alone can pervade effects. So who pervades everything? We can do simple analysis also. What is the meaning of pervading? That also we have our own concept. Where are we right now? In Lincoln High, correct? Where is Lincoln High? In San Jose. So San Jose pervades Lincoln High. Can Lincoln High exist devoid of San Jose? No. Where is San Jose existing? In California. So California pervades San Jose. And San Jose cannot exist without California. This way you understand. Where is California? In America. Even though we would like California to exist without America, but the fact is it cannot. At least the way it stands right now. And so America pervades California. Where is America? On Earth, on the globe. So Earth pervades America. Where is Earth? Now instead of going in stages, I am going to jump. Earth is in space. And Earth is in space means space pervades Earth. Earth pervades America. And all the way Lincoln. So space pervades all this. Devoid of that, this cannot exist. Where is space? In our mind. Because concept of space is in mind. We will think about this again in next class also. Concept of space is in mind, and mind is supported by consciousness. So, what is all pervading? Consciousness. This is the Vedantic meaning. And that is what we are going to see here with 1,000 pointers to that consciousness or that Paramatma which pervades all. This we will see in next class, and in next class we shall begin the Vishnu Sahasranama. I will also tell you where it comes and all. Okay. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.